Hotel Transylvania Transformania is the fourth installment of the Hotel Transylvania series, except instead of going to theaters, even though it was originally supposed to, it went straight to Amazon Prime. It is now technically an Amazon Prime original. In this movie, Johnny gets turned into a monster, and Drac and his monster friends get turned into humans, and they gotta go on an adventure to reverse it. That's the plot, that's the movie. Let's talk about it. And I will say, the plot of this movie, the concept of it, is one of the best things about the movie. Even going in, I was like, okay, that is at least an interesting idea, and I think they do get at least some kind of mileage out of it in the movie. So I went into the movie thinking, this concept sounds like a really fun kind of comedic idea. However, I'm not really that excited for this movie overall, but it's the same way I feel about like every other Hotel Transylvania sequel coming out, you know, because the marketing for these movies just isn't all that great, but I walked out of 2 and 3 thinking, they're alright, you know, they're nowhere near as good, at least for me, as the first Hotel Transylvania movie. I enjoyed that movie a lot. But these 2 sequels, you know, they're fun and they're wacky, and it's like, you know, whatever. I have a fondness for those movies, and I was at least happy that Genndy Tartakovsky was coming back to be a part of the screenplay of this movie, but he was not coming back to direct. Adam Sandler and Kevin James are gone. Who knows why? I read something where it was like, well, maybe their Netflix contracts got in the way, and I'm like, is that how that works? I don't know. Legitimately, no idea. No one's talked about it, but whatever. Besides those 2, everyone else is back, so whatever. And I know there's been people talking about like, man, they got 2 new voice actors to replace those 2. The Kevin James one, I will say, it's not really that noticeable, at least for me, because like Kevin James just has like such a generic white guy kind of voice, so, you know, anyone can come in and fill in for Frank. But, you know, Adam Sandler's Dracula, you know, he's doing a performance, maybe wavy. I'm sorry for that one. The new guy they have coming in named Brian Hull, I believe is his name. I would actually say he does a pretty good job. I've heard some criticism of him. I can't tell if it's just because Adam Sandler isn't back, so they're like, well, I didn't really care for that because I would have preferred if Adam Sandler came back. But the thing about it is that he's not too far off from Adam Sandler's voice acting, because in the first Hotel Transylvania movie, he kind of plays it a little more subdued, but as the sequels go on, you notice Sandler kind of embracing more of the caricature of it all. So Brian Hull kind of does a good job of replicating that. Like, it nearly sounds like him, save for a couple ways he says some things, but mostly it sounds great. Replacing Adam Sandler is the least of this movie's problems, though, if I'm going to be honest. I found this movie to be pretty mediocre. For the longest time, these sequels have been riding that wave of like, you know, it's decent, but at any moment it could topple over. It's falling into a lot of the same traps as some of these animated sequels go, but it's still okay. But now this 4th movie has now kind of tipped it over to the other side. I hoped that the last movie was the last installment, because, you know, it was the end of a trilogy, you know, it seemed like there wasn't really much more room to continue the story anyways, to do anything else that was new or exciting or fresh, so it just seemed like, you know, a fine way to end the series was that last movie, but now they were doing this, and although I do like the idea of them, you know, going on a new adventure to, you know, fix a curse that was placed upon them, you know, because that's kind of taking more advantage of the monster element of their storytelling. Because every Hotel Transylvania movie, despite the fact that there's monsters and creatures in them, they all feel very mundane compared to that element of it, because, you know, a lot of it is, you know, Drac has to let go of his daughter and let his daughter live her life with Johnny or whatever. Or, you know, we gotta take care of the baby. Is the baby gonna be a human or a vampire? Doesn't matter. We gotta go on a summer vacation. You know, very mundane human things. And this one, at least a little bit more, tries to do something with its, you know, more fantasy kind of genre. However, the way that we have to get to that adventure, the first couple minutes of this movie setting it up, I found really baffling. Not just because, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is the direction they're taking. It was baffling that Genndy Tartakovsky was in any way involved with the screenplay, because it is all very retread for me. The movie opens up with like a party for Drac, and Johnny is screwing it up. Everyone is about to die from his party planning, essentially. Even though, like in the first Hotel Transylvania movie, Johnny could throw a competent party. You know, he wasn't completely incompetent, he was just kind of a goof, And in the sequels, Drac was like, oh yeah, you're a bit of a goof, Johnny. I don't know what you're doing. But, you know, there wasn't really any more drama with them because they had settled it all in the first movie. But now this movie comes along and the opening is all about bringing back Drac v. Johnny stuff. Not necessarily versus, but just like more like, oh, there's tensions between the two again. Even though Johnny has spent the last two movies kind of being like I said, a comedic relief goof. You know, he's not completely incompetent. He can do things pretty well. He's just a goof. And there's just been no tension to come from that for 2 sequels now. But now this 4th movie comes along and they're like, oh, well, actually, this, you know, Johnny, he doesn't feel like he's part of the family. Like, he's in the family, but he doesn't feel like he's a part of the family. And it's like, you have been, like, nothing more than just a glorified comedic relief character for the past 2 movies, and now you're trying to spring this thing that maybe should have happened earlier in this series? What are we doing here? Mavis it seems like they've even dumbed down Mavis a bit, because, you know, Johnny's about to kill everyone with this party he planned. Drac freezes everyone. He's like, I gotta fix this. I'm fixing it right now. But Mavis is like, come on, Dad. Johnny did this all for you to try to impress you. He did this all by himself, and oh, what are you doing fixing it? But everyone's about to die. Like, literally everyone is about to die, but Mavis is just like, but Johnny's feelings. What? So I found, like, the first couple minutes of this movie pretty baffling because even though we've had character growth over the past couple movies, it seemed like now they had hit the reset button just so they could do this new thing that they thought, like, this could be a really cool idea. But they're like, well, we're 3 movies in. It seems like we've tied a bunch of knots perfectly to just kind of end the series. Well, I don't know, something contrived to make this happen. You know, let's write something that, you know, maybe doesn't make all that much sense after everything we've been through, but it's not too out of the realm of possibility of happening. I just found that to be, like, really lazy writing. So yeah, there I was sitting there baffled that Genndy Tartakovsky had any kind of creative involvement in this. Obviously, people came in to direct this movie, some other people wrote the screenplay, I'm sure of it, but I was just baffled that, you know, with a project that still kind of has his name on it somewhere, that this was the direction they were taking the story. But at the same time as that, I really missed him in the director's chair of this movie, because even though they do try to capture the same kind of cartoony zaniness of the other movies, and not everything looks bad, like with the way they designed Johnny's monster or the human versions of the main Drac character family. You know, it looks pretty good. It's good ideas. It's pretty funny. Not every piece of animation looks awful here, but there's just so many shots where I was watching it and I was like, this looks borderline unfinished, or a better example is that it looks like it was made specifically for streaming. It looks like a Netflix animated, like, DreamWorks show or something like that sometimes. But this movie was supposed to go to theaters originally. It's not like it was made for Amazon. They have just decided to release it there at some point. So I was I was just sitting there like, why does it look this way? You know, obviously Genndy Tartakovsky isn't back directing it, but surely if you're making a Hotel Transylvania movie, you know, the effort on the animation style should still be there, because it's not necessarily the fact that Hotel Transylvania has the best looking animation of all time or anything like that. Like, nobody's saying that, but it's the way they utilize the animation medium, you know, because, you know, you'll have characters doing, like, weird, like, body moves and stuff like that. Like, I remember there's, like, one shot with, like, the Mel Brooks character in 3 that I think back to sometimes, where he's like strutting around on the ship and he's just, you know, he's got these long legs and fingers and arms and he's just moving it around to sit. Like, sometimes I think about, like, some animation kind of like that, and that's kind of what I associate the Transylvania movies with, and this doesn't really have any creative kind of animation moment like that. There's some parts where it looks alright, it, you know, looks decent and fine, but so much of it just looks so made for streaming. And if we're going to talk about more technical stuff, the way they integrated Andy Samberg's vocal performance into the film, I didn't think that worked at all. It was the equivalent of, like, you know, because he's still trying to do the Johnny stuff, like, I'm a wild, crazy guy, you know, still trying to do that, but it sounds like he's lowering his voice because he's recording in a room next to where his kids are playing or something like that, and he doesn't want them to hear him doing this or something like that. It's the equivalent of that. It never really matches this time around. The other Hotel Transylvania movies, I can at least say, like, you know, Andy Samberg is at least trying and putting his all into this, and I'm not saying he didn't try, it was a weird direction. It was literally like, if I were to do it right now, like, hey guys, what's up, oh my gosh, I'm trying to, like, lower my voice so that I'm not, like, screaming it, but like taking that and putting it in a movie, it was weird to me. There's moments of voice acting where you can kind of tell, like, okay, I think these guys are kind of over it. I don't think they want to be here anymore. Most of them are still fine. Like, obviously, you know, Selena Gomez is fine, Catherine Hahn is fine, Jim Gaffigan is Van Helsing. I think he was having the most fun out of everyone. Like, or at least that's just how his voice sounds to me. Like, you know, he seems like he's having a good time here. And sometimes there are some clever jokes that they managed to throw in where I was like, okay, that's worth a chuckle. You know, these Hotel Transylvania movies have plenty of great comedic moments in it. But there's just so much where I just felt like their hearts just aren't in this franchise anymore. There's so many points where even the jokes fall flat, more so than they normally would with some of the bad jokes they have in the other Hotel Transylvania movies, where it's just kind of a flatline dud. And it's worse when you also think about, you know, they make certain narrative decisions just based around the funny of it. Obviously, you know, when they go on this adventure, they gotta find this thing to turn them back to human and monster, you know, whatever. I won't talk too much about, like, plot specifics, I guess. You know, but, you know, Drac has to go, and Johnny has to go, and these people who just got turned into human have to go too. But for some reason, and obviously, you know, Selena Gomez and Catherine Hahn, you know, they're the most capable characters, but for some reason they also decide we need to bring Steve Buscemi's Wolfman wife and his 100 kids on this mission because, I don't know, why not? Because funny. That's essentially it. You know, I believe Fran Drescher's, you know, Frankenstein's bride character was also there. And it's like, what are these characters going to do? They're not going to do anything. Just bring the core people and, you know, you have your two capable ones, Catherine Hahn and Selena Gomez, and that's it. That's all you need. Why are these guys coming on? It just felt like, you know, well, you know, we got these famous actors, let's just keep them saying stuff, and also it'll be funny. But narratively, it's a little weird. And this is also a movie where when they go on the adventure, the stakes are obviously kind of lacking. Like, obviously they run into some peril stuff, but it's nothing too, like, it all feels very made for, like, streaming, made for DVD kind of sequel. Like, the most dangerous things they run into on their adventure are, you know, mosquitoes, or a pond full of piranhas, or, oh no, Johnny took a wrong turn and now they're falling off a cliff. You know, it's nothing like we've encountered something, like, or some person that's trying to go against us. There's no main villain, not that the movie needs a villain or anything like that. But it's just, there's just nothing interesting to even attach yourself to on this. When they do go on this, like, Amazon kind of trekking adventure, it's just all very generic to me. And even, like, when it does try to get, like, emotional near the end, they're trying to resolve these character conflicts. Once again, I was just thinking about how much of a retread it was, but also it just was not landing for me. I could not connect to the characters this time around. I could not care less about any more of these movies. The way it ends, and I can't tell if they're trying to set up, like, another movie or, like, a TV show, a spin-off, anything like that, but I was over it, you know? I was really over it. And it's weird because the third movie ended and I was like, okay, they can end it here. I have enjoyed them. But they just decided to keep pushing it to the point where now I'm like, well, now you gotta land on a dud. You know, you gotta finish with this instead of the decent, totally fine Summer Vacation. I'm gonna give Hotel Transylvania Transformania a C. It's just a very split down the middle, mediocre movie for me. Like I said, there's some positives to be had for sure. There's some gags that work. Music is once again, you know, solid score. You know, some of the voice actors do fine with what they have. It's a lot of just like, you know, hand-picked, like, well, this wasn't too bad, or this wasn't that bad, but it's also in a mixture of like, well, some of this doesn't work, and some of this isn't working. Like, you know, animation looks fine for a lot of it, except for a lot of shots where it looks unfinished. The voice actors are doing the best they can, but some of them, it seems like they're phoning it in, and Andy Samberg isn't integrated well. And they have solid jokes, and then they have some really crummy dud jokes, so it's just a lot of meh, whatever. You know, this is the kind of quality you would expect for a straight to streaming. I don't know if Sony regrets putting this on streaming instead of in theaters, if they thought, you know, in hindsight, maybe we could have made some, like, box office money off of this, but I mean, Amazon streaming is a more fitting place for a movie of this quality. But if you've seen Transformania, leave in the comments below what you thought of it, and as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.